mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. We're happy to have you here at our Build Your AutoCAD IQ webinar series. We thank you for attending. We know your time is valuable. And today, Volker will be presenting Beyond the Basics Macro Automation. And this is one of the things we've definitely had some requests about, getting more into customizing the program to fit your needs. And I myself, Christina Davis, will be moderating, and we will be joined by Sean Niles as well. So before we start, I'm just going to throw up some polls. You may have seen these in our previous presentations, but we do just like to gather a little bit of information. So our first question, is this your first Autodesk Help webinar? And it's looking like we're having a very strong showing that no. So we thank you for your repeat attendance. We hope you're enjoying everything that we're seeing. Okay, I'm going to close that first poll. Again, thank you for coming back. And then our second poll, we just want to get a feel for which program you use, which software. So AutoCAD LT, which is what Volker will be presenting with today. AutoCAD, actually AutoCAD is what he'll be presenting with, an AutoCAD Vertical like Civil 3D or AutoCAD Architecture, or another product. And AutoCAD and AutoCAD LT appear to be the strongest showing, with LT edging out AutoCAD just a little bit. But we do have some people using verticals as well as some other products. Thank you very much for responding. And then our last poll for the start before I turn it over to Volker is just a question about our upcoming schedule for webinars. So would you like to see earlier webinars repeated, or are you okay with the recordings? So we will be posting, and Volker will be showing a link to our YouTube page and where we've got the previous recordings saved, but we know that sometimes seeing it live is a little more helpful. You can ask questions, so we just want to know if you'd like us to repeat or just keep doing what we're doing. And it looks like about almost 70% prefer to view the recordings. We do have the other 32% like the live webinars. All right, so 33 live and 67 record. Again, thank you very much for putting those answers in. And I'm going to turn it over to Volker now.
All right, thank you, Christina. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, that is a good thing. Hey, thanks everybody for returning or for joining us for our first webinar. And this one, of course, is going to be Beyond the Basics Macro Automation, and basically an introduction to customizing your AutoCAD, to making yourself more productive in many ways, and also a way to be a little more precise and conform to your organization's drafting standards. But before we get started, I do need to go over this. I know the repeat users or attendees have seen this many times, but feel free to leave questions in the chat window. We will answer them as much as we can. This session will be recorded. It'll be on the YouTube channel. And you can download the slide deck for this webinar from the link that Christina will be posting in the chat window, and that link will also be available in the follow-up email you'll receive from the GoToMeeting session. One thing about this PowerPoint slide deck, it will have all of the macros that I'm going to be showing you embedded in that PowerPoint, so you'll be able to review those and play with them and expand upon them. So again, we do want to point out the Autodesk Help webinar series. You can check out our landing page for upcoming webinars. There are additional ones scheduled. This is an older picture here. At the end of the slide deck, I'll show the upcoming webinars. We'll also have a question and answer session after this presentation if time allows. If not, go ahead and leave your feedback on our feedback page, and we can answer those questions there after the webinar. We do check that. For any additional feedback or questions about this webinar, please use the Autodesk Help Webinars email address and put Build Your AutoCAD IQ in that subject line. Your questions will be answered a lot quicker this way as opposed to emailing us individually. We are typically doing a lot of tech support or other duties at the time, so things tend to get filtered out. So we've had some previous webinars. These are available on the YouTube page. I encourage you to check those out. We're at webinar 21 now. And finally, the Autodesk Knowledge Network. Do need to talk about this. A great source for learning, for finding resources about AutoCAD, downloads for AutoCAD and the vertical applications, as well as top support issues or updates to applications. Okay, so let's talk about today's agenda. And before I go on, I believe somebody may not be on mute. Right now I'm hearing a lot of keyboard in the background.
I think we've taken care of it, so.
All right. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about macros, how to write them, and apply them to tool palettes in this case, just because that is the easiest way to demonstrate the macros at this time. If we were to go into customizing the CUI itself, that would just take up a lot more time than we have to show how macros work. We will create a new command in the CUI, and we will not do a grip demonstration. That was left over from last week's webinar, so don't let that throw you off, okay? All right, so what are macros?
And Volker.
Yes.
Just a quick clarification. I might have thrown some people off, but just to clarify which program you're going to be using, AutoCAD versus AutoCAD LT.
Right, AutoCAD LT is what we'll be using. And the reason being is anything I do right now is going to work in AutoCAD LT or any of the vertical AutoCAD LT, AutoCAD, or any of the vertical applications. So I'm going to the basics right now. And thanks for bringing that up. So what are macros? Well, they're a string of commands and the options within those commands. Now, it doesn't have to be a command that you're using in a macro. You could be using and modifying system variables. Basically, all it is a string of text that you can place as a command or as a command function, say in a tool palette, which we'll be doing today. It allows you to automate things. You know, we as AutoCAD users, we tend to have to repeat things all the time, the same process over and over again. So we learn to automate those processes. This maximizes productivity, and if we automate things, we can also enforce the CAD standards of the organization or just your standards as to how you like to work, with the type of workflow you like to use. So not to PowerPoint you to death, but here's a macro example. Okay, and let's say you have something like the rectangle command, and this of course is very basic here. And it prompts you for a first corner point. So you type in something like 0, 0. All right, and then the second corner point, and you type in 4, 2. If you're doing that over and over again, and you probably wouldn't with this example, but something similar, then why not automate it? You could create a macro such as this, which goes into the rectangle command. It cancels the command, goes into the rectangle command, enters the first coordinate point, and then the second coordinate point. And it's that simple. You just click on a button and it places that object, which I'll demonstrate in a moment. So we'll take a look at these, the syntax we use in macros to begin with. Then we'll talk about some of the examples as to how you can use this. And syntax is the most important thing about a macro. You get one extra space in there. If you put in the wrong punctuation mark, you're going to get an error for the most part, or unexpected results. Okay, let's put it that way. All right, so the first one, what we have here is a semicolon. Okay, this is equivalent to pressing the Enter key. You could also use a space bar, and I prefer to use the semicolon because it is more visible in my macros. There's no harm in using either one, but as you know, a spacebar is the same as hitting the Enter key unless you're in a text command. The backslash here, third item down, this pauses for user input. So, for example, in this macro here, if I want the user to be able to enter their own coordinates, I'd put a backslash here, followed by Enter, followed by a backslash, and Enter to finish that command. The underscore that we see in front of the rectangle command here, this allows the macro to work on foreign language installations of AutoCAD. So, for example, if you have an office in Germany, let's say, well, they use a German AutoCAD. AutoCAD understands the commands, though. It will translate, say, the rectangle command for the German version of that if you put the underscore. Many macros will use commands that are typically dialog boxes. Okay, so like the layer command. What if I want to run a macro that creates a layer or sets it current or changes the color of a layer, whatever you want to do with a layer. Run a layer state function to restore a certain layer state. Well, just running a macro won't do it because as soon as the dialog pops up, it's going to terminate the macro. So you have to suppress that dialog, and that's easily done by putting a hyphen in front of the dialog command. The asterisk will repeat a macro until it's canceled by the user. The control character here, this is the same as, so for example, well, there's the control key, but in AutoCAD, Control C would not be a copy in a menu. It would be a cancel command. You could also have Control G for grid, Control P for plot. There are many different control characters. All of these are available in the help if you do a search for the macros syntax. The $sign introduces a diesel expression, which is available in AutoCAD LT. We will not have time to go into that in this session, but be aware it's there, and it's a more enhanced macro language that allows you to get a little deeper into your programming. The @ symbol specifies the use of the last reference point, the last picked coordinate point in the drawing. And we'll also see that one in action. There are times also you need to run a command within another command. Not all commands do this, but let's say you're in the line command and you need to zoom in or out. Well, we can easily do this with the mouse or by selecting the ribbon button. But from the command line, if you wanted to run the zoom command, you'd have to type 'Z enter, and that puts the zoom command into what is called a transparent mode. And so these are the most commonly used bits of syntax. So having said that, we're now going to see how these work. And again, I'm in AutoCAD LT. And what I've done is I've enlarged the command line a little bit so that you can see what's happening on the command line. And I've also created a little text file here so you can see which macros I'm working with. Okay, as I said, I'm going to do this off of a tool palette. Now, the easiest way to begin with your macros is to just place an existing command that you know you want to modify onto your tool palette. The way to do this is to go into the CUI command. I'm going to type CUI, enter. And in the Find dialog of the Customize tab here, I'm just going to type rectangle. And there it is. With the CI open like this, I can pick and drag and drop that command onto my palette. Very easy. I'll go ahead and click cancel here. And now, let's go over here into the blank drawing I have, and just to show you the command does work. All right. I'm going to go and right-click over this command. And I'm going to go ahead and select Properties. And it is the rectangle command. And this is actually the command string right here. Now, I know that's rather small, but the default is just cancel the command, and it has 2 cancel prompts. Let me open it up here. Okay, you'll also note that in my macro, I have 3 cancel commands. That's because there are certain commands. If you were to hit the escape key, you would have to hit the escape key 3 times to cancel out of that command. So personally, I prefer 3 cancels. Okay, and that's what it's doing here is 2 cancels. Control C, translate rectangle. Same here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just replace the macro that I have in the tool palette with mine. And that's as easy as copying and pasting from my text editor. And this is, I usually tend to do it in a text editor first. It's a little more visible. But once I've done that, I'll go ahead and click OK here. I click on the rectangle command, and voila. There it is. 0, 0, 4 across, 2 up. That easy. Another way to find out how to build your macro is to just go through a series of commands. So, for example, I want to create a layer to create a layer, and I want to put that into a macro, or I want to make a layer current. So the easiest way to do this is to go to the command line and type in hyphen layer, LA in this case, and notice all the options we have here. Okay, we can see what layers are available, not much use in a macro. We have the make option. This will actually create a layer and set it current. Set takes an existing layer and sets it current. And the rest of these are all pretty self-explanatory, all stuff in the layer dialog. Note that we can even run a layer state. Okay, and so you could put that in your macro, just you got to know the layer state as well. But we would do this, again, from the command line. So again, everything we have in the layer dialog is available from that command line. Okay, and we'll get back to the layer command in a moment. But where I'm going with this is type out the commands that you want to do and watch those prompts. All right, so there's several things that I like to create macros for. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a copy of this rectangle. I'm just picking with my left mouse button or right mouse button and dragging and dropping to copy this here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new macro. Now what this macro does is that it's going to change some of my settings. Okay? And what I prefer to have is not to have the grid on in the background. And we also have the navigation bar up here. I don't like having that on. I also want to make sure that my dynamic input is off. For the most part, that's how I like to work. I don't want the snap on. I may get at somebody's architectural drawing. So all of these things may be things I typically do not like to see. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. Properties. We'll just call this settings. And we'll place this in here. Click OK. Now before we run the macro, again, Control-C's cancel the command. Underscore snap, enter. Off is the option. It's either on or off. Same thing for grid, on or off. But DIN mode, which is my dynamic input, you actually have to use the system variable bit switch of 0 to turn that off. And DIN mode actually has 3 different options. 1, 2, and 3, but you can type 0 to turn it off or a -3 to turn it off as well. How do I know what's in my system variable for switches? Again, like a command, we can type it in. So I'm going to type DIN mode, and it gives me a value here, but I'm going to hit F1. And that takes me right to the DIN mode system variable in the help file. And so here it gives me all the options. So easily find out what those options are and put in that value in your macro. The other one I have is the tool bar on the top right of the screen for the navigation bar. This one is just off. So I'm just going to go ahead and click settings, and the nav bar is gone, my grid is off. Note that on the command line it's displaying exactly what, if I had typed this in at the command line, snap off, grid off, DIN mode 0, nav bar off. So a quick way to have these conform to my workflow using a macro. So let's take a look at another example. I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle here. And I'll draw a line, and I want to go to the center of that circle. And all of a sudden I realize, oh, I don't have my OSNAP set to center. I could easily type it in or change my OSNAP settings themselves. But I prefer to have a certain series of OSNAP set whenever I begin or am modifying a file. It doesn't matter what I need later on. I like to have a certain set of OSNAP set. So in this case, I have a macro that will go to endpoint, midpoint, center, and node OSNAPs, because those are my preferred OSNAPs. And we have a system variable here called osmode. And the value 15 will go ahead and change to these settings right here. Again, note the transparent command, okay, the apostrophe. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and may have to do that again in a moment. Go into properties. Let's go paste. So apostrophe osmode enter 15 enter. We'll just call this OSNAP. And click OK. So again, I was in the line command. And I realized, oh, my OSNAPs aren't set. So I'll go over here it goes into the Osmode system variable, changes it to 15, and now I'm able to select the center point. I'm going to type Osmode at the command line here, and F1. These are the different values you would set for the OSNAP dialog box. So if you need information on what OSNAPs to set, use this help file. The way this works is that I went endpoint, midpoint, center, node. That's 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 8, 15. This is how you get your value. And the default setting is usually 4133. So just geeky trivia there, okay? Oh, there it is right there, yeah. But anyway, that's how you get your OSNAP value. And it allows me, and you know, you can set up different types of Osmodes depending on the type of drawings you work in. So good stuff there. I use this all the time. Okay, let's take a look at something just a little more complex. Copy and rotate. Okay, we have the copy command or the rotate command, and it has a function to copy an object. Okay, but what if you want to copy an existing object and then rotate it? All right, this here allows you to do that. So what we have here is escape, translate the command, enter to invoke the command. User input, what object do I want to copy? Enter. Pick the first point for that object. Okay, your base point, say the center of the circle, or, well, you probably wouldn't want to rotate that. Say the intersection of the rectangle here. Okay, and then where do you want to place that object? Once you've placed it, it goes into translate the rotate command, enter to invoke it. The L is for last object created. Had I used P for previous, it would select the original object that I was modifying or copying from. I'm going to use L for the last object that I placed in the drawing. So rotate the last object I placed. Enter. So basically, pick the it is going to enter, and then when it prompts for entering the base point of that object, you're saying select the last point that I placed the object on. Okay, so again, that intersection maybe. Enter to finish that prompt, and this here finishes the command. So let's see how that works. I'm going to, again, I'll just copy this one here. I'll rename it. We'll call it co-row. All right, we'll go into Properties. Click OK.
And Volker, I think we might have lost your volume.
Oh, yeah? We're still here? Okay, good. Phew. Don't scare me like that. So just for grins, I'll go ahead and use this command on the telephone block here. So I'll go ahead and select that. It says copy, select object. Okay, I pick, and it says, okay, specify a base point. So I'll go ahead and pick the base point, zoom in so you can see it a little better. And it says pick the second point. And then it goes into the rotate command, and it prompts me to specify a rotation angle. I could have hard-coded in a rotation angle if I always want it to be at 45 degrees or something. And once I hit enter, it finishes. So again, to go back to that macro real quick, last object, pick the point. This here is where it prompted me for the rotation angle, and then finish the command. Okay, let's go ahead and take this one step further. What if I want...
And Booker, I do have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So one question, could you just go over real quickly how you initially got, again, that rectangle over into the palette where you're adding the macros?
Oh, yeah, certainly. We will review that quickly. I'll go into CUI is what I typed at the command prompt. Then I typed, let's go ahead and use rectangle again, I guess, just because I couldn't think of any other command real quick. I typed that into the find field right here. Once I find it, I pick and drag it onto my tool palette. And there it is.
Excellent. Thank you.
We'll do that one more time here at the end, kind of running short on time, and I want to show a couple of more here. I'll go ahead and copy this one first while we're here. And let's say that, so I'm on layer 0 here. And actually what I want to do, I think I'll do in this one here, I'm ad-libbing, okay? I only have layer 0 in this particular drawing. And if I were to create a, wanted to make sure that I can quickly set a layer current, or I know that I need to make this layer in multiple drawings for whatever reason, or multiple layers maybe I need to create, what I'm going to do is just create a macro to do that for me. Okay, so what I'll do here, sound effects of my mouse clicking. What I'll do here is create a macro which will create that layer and then set that layer current. So in this case, I'm going to create a macro called that will create a layer called phones, and will then apply a color of red to it and set the layer current. Escape, hyphen to suppress the layer dialog, enter, M to make and then set the layer current, enter to invoke that. Then it prompts me for what the layer name will be. I tell it phones, enter, then I tell it I want to use actually apply a color of red to the layer phones, and then 2 enters to get out of it. And again, type this in at the command line to see how these options work. I will stress that you should never, even though you type in a shortcut like LA, minus LA, type in the full command in order to make that work, because somebody may have set up a different macro or alias for the layer command, or even for the circle command. So always be sure to use the full command, and then you can use the letter C or M as a shortcut option within that command. All right, so here we go. I'll go ahead and show you how this one works. Properties. Oops, I never did copy it, did I? There we go. Just go ahead and place that in there. Paste. Click OK. Probably could have renamed it. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll go ahead and, again, we only had one layer in here. And now look at all the stuff that's happened on the command line. Minus layer, let's go F2. Minus layer, current layer is 0. Go ahead and create a new layer called phones. Actually, you can probably see that better here. Make, then we call it phones. We want to assign a color to it, color red, applied to phones layer, and then enter twice to get out of it. And note that my layer exists and the color is red. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to layer 0 for another macro dealing with the layer command. And this one here is going to set the layer current and insert a phone block multiple times. All right, so this is one bit of syntax we haven't looked at yet. The asterisk. This will repeat any macro until you cancel out of it. When you're inserting a block, if you were to put an asterisk in front of the insert command, okay, that would explode the block. So be sure you don't do that unless you want that to happen intentionally. I'll go ahead and copy this. Oh, let's go over it real quick. Escape, layer command, set layer phone's current, enter to get out of that command, hyphen, insert. You want to suppress the insert dialog. Enter, insert the block FN phone, enter, and then S is where, obviously the default is 1 for block insertion, but if I wanted to change the scale, I'd have to type S, enter, and then give it a scale factor. I'm just using 1 here, okay? Enter to repeat it for the Y scale factor. R for rotation, and again, I just put enter to accept the default, but if I wanted to rotate that block 45 degrees, I could. And then we have the placement, enter. So I'll go ahead and just put that in here, properties. I'll paste it and click OK. Now running that, I'm going to go ahead and there's the phone layer. Note my command line. Insert, and there's my block, and pick my insertion point, and rotation angle. I'm just hitting enter, and it repeats the macro. Again, I'm hitting enter because I did not give it a value. Should have put another enter in there, but this is to demonstrate that I can give it the flexibility to where I can enter a pre-assigned value or give the user the option to rotate. Once I'm done placing phones or whatever, I escape out or cancel out of the command by hitting enter 1 additional time. Okay, so my favorite one is this one. This will be the last macro I show, and then I'll go into the CUI quickly, and we'll answer some additional questions. I like to always save my drawings because we save images with them. So I always like to save mine to zoom extents, and then give it a little space around the border, and then I want it to save the drawing. So here I'm canceling out of any command, going into the zoom command, enter extents, enter the extents option, enter to repeat the zoom command, 0.9x for the scale factor, enter to finish the zoom command, and go into QSave. This is probably my most often used macro. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. Click OK. And first of all, QSave is just a quick save, right? That's all it is. It saves to the existing name of the drawing. It's the same as clicking the icon up here, Save, QSave. So there, zoomed out to extents, gave me a nice little edge around the extents. Obviously, there's a lot of black space here, but nice little edge here to save this as a good bitmap image. But what if I'm over here in a drawing? Oh, actually, that wouldn't work. Let's start a new drawing. We'll just put a rectangle in here for grins. Click on this. So the save dialog comes up. So it'll work either when you're saving a new drawing, when you haven't named yet, or a drawing which has been named. So a very cool macro. That one and Osmode are the ones I use the most. Okay, one final thing, and that is, again, we aren't really talking about customizing the CUI here, but I told you like the QSave one, I really like using that one quite a bit. And so I have my other save commands here on the quick access bar. I want to add that to the quick access bar as well. So what I'm going to do is go into the CUI command, and I'll create a new command. So all commands only here for the AutoCAD LT CUI. There's a button with the star. I'll break for a moment, because if you haven't done any customizing with the CUI, you want to be careful. If you're working for some organization where they don't want you messing with the CUI, talk to your IT manager, all right? And if you are doing this and you completely hose your CUI for whatever reason, okay, through your fault or some other fault, you can always restore it or reset it by right mouse clicking over that CUI name. In the PowerPoint slide deck, there's the first link in the additional resources is to a AU session which I taught a couple of years ago, which discusses customizing the CUI. All right, so anyway, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to create a new command. And it is over in the Properties tab here. It's called Command 1. Well, I want to call this Zoom Save. Whoops. And I can put additional things here like a description of what it does. If I have a help item file, a command display name, or just add the macro. That's all I'm going to pretty much do in this one here. I'm going to add the macro. And I will go ahead and put an image because I do want to see it on my quick access bar. So I'm going to go ahead and I've created one here called Z9X. And I'll select that. It applies that image. I'll put it on both of these. I think these are both small icons, but it doesn't matter. I'll use it for both. And I could edit or create my own icons up here. And again, this is not really the topic of this webinar. Note down here that we have my Zoom Save command. Ultimately, it's best to put this kind of stuff in a partial customization file. But again, that's another topic. I'm going to go ahead and click Apply here to save it to the CUI. Now that I've applied it, I'm going to go ahead and pick and drag this to the quick access bar. And it's right there next to my other save icons. I'm also going to, just for grin, show you, hey, custom command, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on my property palette. So you can create commands in the CUI first, then drag them to the palette, or you could create them on the palette and just use the macro to create the command later on, depending on what you want to do with them. So anyway, either way, I've clicked Apply here, click OK, and let's just go ahead and do this here. There we go. Works that easily. Before we move on, last thing I want to show you, if you're worried about, okay, where do I find the CUI? If you haven't messed with this and you do want to make a copy of that CUI prior to customizing it in any manner, and I do recommend that, then go into your Options dialog, Files, and you can find your customization or a CUI file right here. That is the path to it. Okay, so you can always, if you have it in a custom location, you can always find it this way quickly. Also, the custom icons, when you create them, and this is where it stores those, and you can redirect these paths, not a problem. The other thing I should point out, the macro where I inserted a block, okay, here I am in a drawing, or I'll show it again in a moment, but I the block itself, you either need to have the block exist in a drawing or have it be in a support path. So I've added a support path. This is where my blocks are. Or you can type in the path in your macro as well. So what I'm getting at is, here I am over in another new drawing, and I want to insert that block. I think it was this one. Oops. No. Should have named these, huh? All right. I'll go over here where I already have. Actually, I guess I can't do that since I have it in my path. I was going to show you how it bombs out if I try to insert a block that doesn't exist in the drawing or is not in your path. It'll kill the macro. It'll just bomb it out, just like anything that doesn't exist. So I guess I can't demo that. Never ad-lib in front of an audience, people. You learned it from me. All right.
Okay, Volker, do we have time for some questions?
We do.
Did you have another
I do want to show
topic?
one slide,
Sure.
and then and that's this one here. This is the additional resources, which is people told me it's pretty good, but it'll show you how to customize or get you started with that. Resources for creating command aliases, more information on diesel, and command customization, macro customization, and the special control characters in command macros. I also want to show this before we take questions. Upcoming webinars. The next four are going to be tips and tricks. Okay, working with layers, working with styles. So text style, dimension styles. And then also we've had a lot of requests for working and creating user templates. Okay, we can take some questions, Christina.
All right, great. So again, a couple of these we may have to just slowly touch on and not really have time to demonstrate, but we'll try to adjust them. So first, there was a question just about, is there a way to make the macros on the fly? And it sounds like what we're probably looking for is the action recorder, which is in AutoCAD. That's, you have another. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a good point. You can use the action recorder, except it is not available in AutoCAD LT.
Correct. Yeah, so it's only available in AutoCAD. Also, with the action recorder, basically what it does is it'll capture commands you're typing, and then you'll need to go back and edit, clean it up a little bit to make sure that it's a fully functional macro for other commands. So that is available if you have AutoCAD. Another question was, can we add move command to the copy and rotate? So I think that was referring to the copy rotate you did on the tool palette, and if that was the function you needed, you could definitely add that in. Move semicolon slash for pause, semicolon slash slash.
Yep, you could actually take this macro right here and copy it. But the easiest way to do it is, so I have, let's go ahead and just put a circle here, okay? And if I type in or go to the ribbon and select move, okay? So there's move. It prompts me to select object, the object, one found. I enter to finish. Then it says select base point, first point, second point. So basically my macro would be move, enter to invoke that command. Then I would put in a prompt, the backslash, okay, to select the object, then an enter to tell it I'm done selecting the object, then user input 1 for picking the first base point, so the center of that circle perhaps, and then another for the second placement point of that circle. So actually copy would be the better option for modifying this macro right here. just replace that with move because it has the same process, copy.
Great. Okay, next question. When suppressing a dialog box, do you need the language translator?
No, in fact, it won't work.
Okay.
Yeah, the underscore won't work. Yeah, hyphen underscore doesn't work. I actually never thought about it and tried it out for the first time just the other day, so I'll admit it.
Excellent. Proactive. All right, if you run a set of commands in the drawing and want to make them a macro, can they be copied from the command lines? So this maybe kind of links back to like the action recorder and how to speed this up. If you look at Volker's command line now, you can see if we copied that, that's not really a macro. You can use it as your guide, but it's not like a copy and paste in COI.
Right, it's not going to work quite that well. But, you know, if you have something really, whoops, wrong one, F2 is what I wanted. If you have something really lengthy and complex, like maybe creating a layer, all right? Oh, we're in a different drawing here. Let's see, start macros. There we go, F2. So maybe I want to create a layer like we did here. Where did we do it? Yeah, current layer. Maybe I want to copy this, like this, okay? Then I'd have to then, and I'm just copying part of this, paste it in here, and then I could remove all the stuff, technical verbiage for everybody, that I don't want to use. And then get rid of this, okay, use the M, or in this case I just set a layer current. So I'm just going to go minus layer, delete all that, and then I'd have to, for each one of these here, I'd have an enter. You know, it's actually just easier to, I feel, read your command line, look at the prompts, and type it in yourself. You know, so it's this easy.
Good practice.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you really start to understand what all the options are in your commands because you're going to be paying attention. A lot of people will use the same command over and over and not realize, oh, there's a reference option. Oh, I have a offset option. You know, things like that. So.
Great. All right, so we have about 5 more of these. We want to try to squeeze in the 8 minutes. Is there a method to assign an alias to a macro? I'm guessing they mean like AutoCAD PGP alias.
So, yeah, awkward moment here. There is a supposedly, I'm not sure what's going on with this function here. I was going to talk to one of the developers, and let me see if I can, let's find my macro here. Zoom. Where was it? Zoom. What do I call that thing again? Yes, Q save, right? I think. Oh, zoom save. There we go. Here's my macro. And if we take a look at this, there's this command display name, and where was it? Oh, actually, after I assign it to the quick access bar. Right, there we go. Sorry, this I was not prepared for this question right now. I should have been.
That might be maybe one we just table and we can answer in the forums.
I'm there. Okay. Notice that as soon as I selected it in the menu item, there's a macro function here. So I can put the macro in here. And once you've done that, you could actually supposedly run it from the command line by assigning a command name to it. But it's not working. I'm not sure what's going on. So really, this is something, leave feedback on it. And I am on my way to exploring why it's not working as it should. That's the best answer I have.
All right. That's a good one.
Yeah, AutoLisp actually is better for that.
Yeah.
Not available in AutoCAD LT, though. Sorry.
All right, and is there a way to set up a macro to reconcile all unreconciled layers in a drawing? There actually is a help article. This one we can do quick. If you hit F1 and type reconcile layers, it should be the first one or two that comes up. It gives you the macro you need to copy and paste right away. So that one's an easy one. And yep, how to create a macro.
There you go. Look at that. Didn't even know that was there.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Yeah, and there's the.
There it is.
Right there. Yep, and again, if you look down here on the command prompt, E is the capitalized letter of that option. That's what you want to type in your macro, is the capital letter. You know, whatever you would type at the command line to get to that option. Good one. Nice help file there.
Yeah, it's a very good one. All right, last two. Can you use a macro to select options within a pop-up window? Like something in your plot dialog box. And
well, even the plot command, for example, has options for plotting. And this is a long series of steps. And so, yes, I mean, there are options. Note here, plot, enter layout name, model, enter, page setup if you have it, enter, etc., etc. So basically, anything you can do in a dialog box, you can pretty much do through a macro, as long as you're able to suppress that dialog.
Excellent. All right. And lastly, a security question. So let's say you spent 10 hours building this awesome macro that pretty much designs your whole house. Can you password protect your macro?
No, it's a text file. You know, it's a text file. You could place, if you have it in your CUI, a partial CUI, place it on a server somewhere in a with permissions on it. You can put permissions to where you're the only one who can work with it, but I wouldn't do that, no. If you're using AutoCAD, try using Visual Lisp, which is a utility to create AutoLisp routines, and you can then compile those into a file where nobody can access it, okay? You are the person who can access it or create it, but that's it. So macros are strings of text.
Lovely. All right, so while we still have you all, we'd just like to throw one more poll up, and we will still look and see if there's more questions, but just our final poll, did you learn something new today? And this is the one where you get to make Volker feel really proud of himself. Just bear that in mind as you vote.
Or make me feel ashamed. Okay, well, for the 3 or 4 or 5% who didn't learn anything, really sorry we wasted your time on this one. But for those who did learn something, I'm happy you did, and that you were able to attend. And even for those who didn't learn anything, you know, we know your time's valuable. And we do appreciate you being here, and we do hope to see you again in upcoming webinars. And any final words, Christina, before we knock off the air here?
Nope, we just have a couple of thank yous, and even though I did not learn anything new, I still appreciate it. So there you go.
Thank you. I love that warm fuzzy. Thank you. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week, hopefully. Okay?
Have a good one.